You are born into a valley that smells like wet cedar and wood smoke. The midwife wipes you with cloth that once belonged to someone important and is now just cloth. You scream. Good. Noise is proof you're alive. Then your throat catches and you learn your first lesson. Sound has consequences. Outside the house, rain taps the roof with the patience of an interrogator. Somewhere in the dark, a frog keeps time like a cheap drum. Your mother's breath is ragged, her hair stuck to her temples, her hands shaking the way hands shake when they have just negotiated with death and didn't get a receipt. Your father looks at you the way men look at things they cannot afford but will carry anyway. He doesn't say he is a shinobi. That would be ridiculous. At this point, you are mostly lungs and stubbornness. You are not a myth, you are not a shadow, you are a bill. A baby is a mouth. A baby is rice. In Iga, rice is not just food. Rice is wage. Rice is vote. Rice is apology. Rice is threat. Rice is the smallest unit of peace, measured in koku, the way a modern clerk measures your life in numbers on a screen. You learn before you can speak that the world is a ledger. Your father keeps ledgers, not fancy ones, not silk-bound, ink on paper, paper folded and hidden in a pot behind the hearth, because if you live in a province that sells secrets for survival, you learn that paper is more dangerous than steel. He is a farmer when he is seen, a messenger when he is needed, a scout when the valley demands it, a liar when the world won't accept the truth. He looks at your tiny clenched fist and says, very quietly, as if speaking to the rain itself, "Welcome. Try not to die." That is your lullaby. You sleep to the sound of your mother crying softly, not because she hates you, but because she loves you enough to understand the math. Iga, Spring 1566, the first lie you learn to wear. You are 7 when you learn that children are excellent cover. Adults ignore you the way they ignore dust. That's the point. You can stand near the village well and listen while men talk about taxes, raids, and which lord is hungry enough to call it honor. Your father takes you to the forest, where the air is green and sharp and full of insects that whine like gossip. He hands you a bundle of straw sandals. Run. You run until your lungs feel like paper being torn. You trip, you bleed. The blood is bright against the brown earth, and you stare at it like it's someone else's problem. Your father squats beside you. His fingers smell of iron and smoke. He ties the sandals tighter. Again. You run again. Your feet learn the ground the way a tongue learns a wound, by returning to it until it stops hurting, and then returning anyway. At night, he teaches you to climb. Not heroic climbing, not leaping across rooftops under a moon that always cooperates. Real climbing. Tree bark that scrapes your palms raw, wet stones that slip, branches that snap at the worst moment, because branches don't care about your dreams. You fall once, hard, and the world flashes white. Your shoulder screams. You bite down on your own sleeve so no one hears. Your father watches you swallow your pain like medicine. Good, he says. You think he is praising you for bravery. Later, you understand he is praising you for silence. In the house, your mother teaches you the other half of the craft, how to be ordinary, how to bow at the right depth, how to carry water without sloshing, how to lower your eyes without looking guilty, how to smile the way a person smiles when they have nothing to hide. You practice faces the way other children practice songs. In the corner, your father's ledger waits. Numbers, names, notes written in shorthand that looks like prayer marks, a list of rice payments, a list of favors, a list of people who will betray you for the price of a new roof. You ask once, bold with childhood, Why so much writing? Your father doesn't look up, because swords are loud, paper is quiet, paper wins. He taps the ledger with a fingernail. Everyone thinks a shinobi is a weapon. They're wrong. A shinobi is accounting. You laugh because the word sounds wrong in your mouth. Accounting for a ninja? The joke grows up with you. Iga, winter, 1572. Your first mission is a bowl of soup. You are 13. Your voice breaks like a cheap bowl. Your body grows faster than your balance, and you feel awkward in your own skin, as if you've borrowed it from someone taller and haven't returned it yet. One evening, a man arrives with a straw hat pulled low and mud on his sleeves. He doesn't say hello. He doesn't need to. Your father pours tea in the tiny room where guests sit. The tea smells of roasted leaves and restraint. The kettle hums. The tatami mats hold the faint scent of dried grass and old stories. The man speaks in the tone people use when they discuss weather, except he is not discussing weather. A castle kitchen, tomorrow, before sunrise. Your father glances at you. It's the first time he looks at you like you are not a child. You try to swallow. Your throat is dry. Me? You say, and you hate how small your voice sounds. The man's mouth twitches, not quite a smile. Who else? He says. Your father is too known. You are nobody. Nobody. Perfect. That night, you don't sleep. You listen to your heartbeat like a drum trying to get you killed. Before dawn, your mother wraps your hair, ties your sleeves, and presses a small pouch into your palm. Salt, she whispers, for your tongue. You don't understand until later. Salt to keep you awake. Salt to hide fear sweat. Salt because fear tastes bitter, and salt makes bitter tolerable. You leave as a boy with errands. You arrive at the castle as a boy with hunger. Castles are not romantic when you're standing beneath them. They are ugly in a practical way, stone and wood and arrogance stacked into walls. You slip into the servants' flow. You bow, you carry, you keep your eyes down. You memorize everything anyway. You reach the kitchen, where steam rises from pots, and the air is heavy with soy, fish, smoke, and human fatigue. Someone shoves a bowl toward you. Eat, a cook snaps, then scrub. You eat. The soup is hot enough to burn your tongue. You force yourself not to flinch. A shinobi who flinches is a shinobi who gets remembered, and remembered is another word for dead. You scrub, and while your hands work, your ears listen. Men talk when they think no one important is listening. Servants are the original background noise. In a modern world, you'd call it security oversight. In your world, it's called Tuesday. You hear names. You hear dates. You hear which gate will be opened for which convoy, and which guard hates which captain, and which commander drinks too much. You store it all behind your teeth. When you leave, you are carrying a basket of vegetable scraps to the pigs. Hidden beneath the scraps is a folded paper sealed with wax. It weighs almost nothing. It weighs more than your life. You walk out of the castle, head down, basket in hand, smelling like onions and humility. No one stops you. No one sees you. You should feel triumphant. Instead, you feel sick, because you realize how easy it is. And that is terrifying. Koga border, autumn, 1577. War feels like waiting with teeth. The Sengoku period does not feel like constant battle. It feels like constant preparation to be eaten. Armies march like storms, and peasants live like grass, flattened, regrown, flattened again. Lords talk about honor and loyalty, the way gamblers talk about luck, loudly, to convince themselves. By 18, you have learned the truth that ruins the myth. Most missions are errands. Deliver a message, watch a road, count horses, listen in a tea room, bribe a stable boy, set a small fire in the right storage shed so a lord wastes a week arguing with his own men. You learn patience until it becomes an ache in your bones. You meet men from Koga, sharp-eyed, silent, practical. People will argue for centuries whether Iga or Koga was better, like fans arguing over rival teams. You learn that rivalry is a luxury.
You also learn that shinobi are not a separate species. You see their hands, calloused from farming. You smell their clothes, smoke and sweat. You hear their jokes, cheap, dark, and excellent. One Koga man watches you fumble a knot and says, deadpan, "The famous ninja of Iga." You glare. He adds, "Legends disappoint in person." You laugh, because the truth is funny when it's not killing you. Weapons enter your life like unwanted relatives. A short blade hidden in a sleeve, a rope that bites your palms, a grappling hook, kaginawa, that clinks softly, betraying you if you forget to wrap it. You learn that the famous throwing star is mostly a story. Small metal projectiles exist, yes, but the real tools are uglier. Nails, shards, anything that can distract or wound without drama. You carry a kunai, not because it's glamorous, but because it's a shovel, pry bar, hammer, and knife, all in one. Your favorite weapon becomes your mind, which is the least cinematic thing imaginable and the most effective. Sometimes you use smoke, sometimes pepper-like powder to blind for a heartbeat. No recipes, no magic, just the human body's honest weakness. And always, always, information. If you could see the future, you'd laugh at how people will one day call this intelligence work and put it in offices with polished desks. In your time, it smells like horse piss and damp straw. Iga, October 15th, 81. The valley burns, and you learn what winning looks like. Then, Oda Nobunaga decides you are inconvenient. Iga has grown too independent, too proud, too skilled at resisting. The province is a thorn. Nobunaga does not tolerate thorns. He sends an army. Not a raid, not a warning, an answer. The invasion hits like a fist. You are 22. You are in the forest when you first hear it, a distant roar like wind but wrong. Then smoke rises above the trees. Then you smell it, burning wood, burning rice, burning something worse. Villages are not supposed to burn. Villages are supposed to be eternal, like childhood lies. You run. The ground shakes under your feet with the rhythm of thousands of men moving as one. Arrows hiss, horses scream, men shout commands that you can't hear clearly because your blood is too loud. You see a house collapse. You see a child running with his sleeve on fire. You see an old woman trying to carry a pot, still trying to carry something, because the brain clings to routine when reality becomes impossible. Your hands shake. You grip your kunai so hard your knuckles whiten. You want to fight. You are trained for shadows, not open slaughter, but rage does not care about training. Your father appears out of smoke, like a ghost with dirt under his nails. He grabs your collar. "Not here," he says. You stare at him, wild-eyed. "There. Not here," he repeats. His voice is iron. "You want to die? Fine. Later. Somewhere useful." He drags you into a narrow path that only locals know. You slip and fall and taste mud. The mud is cold and real. Around you, Iga collapses. This is the irony that will haunt you. The shinobi, masters of avoiding direct battle, watch their home destroyed by direct battle anyway. You spend the night in a ditch with 10 others, breathing through cloth, listening to soldiers laugh as they loot. The laughter is casual. That's what breaks you. In the morning, the valley is ash. The famous schools, the proud families, the clans people will romanticize later as if they were noble houses. Charcoal. Your father opens his hidden pot and pulls out the ledger. The paper smells faintly of smoke. It survived because it was buried. He flips pages with trembling fingers. Names, contacts, deaths. He looks at you. Remember, he says, voice raw. History will call this pacification. You want to spit. He continues, and they'll be right, because they won. You stare at the ledger, and the truth hits you like a second invasion. Your life is now a file being moved to a new cabinet. Mikawa Road, summer 1582. You become someone else's emergency plan. Nobunaga dies at Honnō-ji. News travels like a knife thrown in the dark, silent then suddenly inside you. A lord burned in his temple, betrayed by Akechi Mitsuhide. The world's balance shifts in a single night, like a drunk man falling off a stool, and suddenly your skills are wanted again. You join men guiding Tokugawa Ieyasu through enemy territory, threading him out of danger like a needle pulling thread through cloth. This is one of the few moments where the legend almost matches reality. Night, rain, forests dense enough to swallow sound, enemy patrols moving like slow sharks. Your group, thin, hungry, fast, slipping between them. You don't wear black. Black is for theater. You wear what keeps you alive. Dull browns, grays, a farmer's coat, a hat like any traveler. You smear mud on your face not to look scary, but to look forgettable.
You learn routes, you read tracks, you listen for the tiny betrayals of the world. A twig snapping, a dog barking, a distant lantern shifting. Ieyasu rides, silent, eyes sharp. He is not a friend, he is a client. And you realize something bitter and simple. Shinobi don't serve justice, they serve pay. If you were born centuries later, you'd call it contract work, freelance, no benefits, death included. When you reach safety, Ieyasu's men bow and thank you as if gratitude is currency. Then, true to form, payment arrives as rice. Bags of rice, measured, logged. Your father laughs once, a short, ugly sound. Imagine, he says, risking your life so someone can feed you the same thing you risked your life to protect. You laugh too. It's either that or scream. Kyoto, 1587. Politics smells like incense and rot. War is not only fought with swords, it is fought with seating arrangements. You learn this in Kyoto, where Toyotomi Hideyoshi rises like a fire that refuses to go out. You enter the capital disguised as a minor servant in a minor household belonging to a minor ally of a major man. This is how power works, layers of people pretending they aren't terrified. Your job is not to kill anyone. Your job is to listen. The tea room is small, clean, a world of intentional quiet. Tatami under your knees, the faint, sweet smoke of incense, the sound of water being poured is so gentle it feels obscene, considering how many bodies are cooling in ditches outside the city. Men talk in soft voices about alliances, land grants, and punishments. They speak of provinces like tiles in a game. They speak of people like they are rice. Hideyoshi's new rules ripple outward: weapon hunts, tax reforms, control. A samurai's sword is visible power. A shinobi's information is invisible power. You watch a nobleman lift a tea bowl with hands that have never been bruised by climbing. You think, with a stab of black humor, if I dropped him in the forest, he'd die of inconvenience. You catch yourself smiling, quickly erase it. An ordinary servant is suspicious. Remember, ordinary is armor. You leave the tea room with a tray, and in your sleeve is a tiny mark, a coded note written as a shopping list. Soy, salt, sake, and Hideyoshi intends to tighten the net. Back home, your father adds it to the ledger like a man updating a calendar. In a future century, some enthusiastic storyteller will claim you overheard a grand secret through mystical ninja hearing. The truth, you were close enough to refill cups. That's all. History turns crumbs into feasts.
Coastal Roads, 1592. You watch an empire reach too far. Hideyoshi sends armies to Korea. The ambition is huge, the suffering is predictable. You are not in the front lines, that is not your place. But you travel with messengers, track supply routes, and watch men return with haunted eyes and fewer fingers. You hear stories, ships burning, storms, desperate battles, disease. You see the economic strain in the rice counts. Rice is the pulse of the state, and now it beats unevenly. You learn another myth breaker. Shinobi are not always glamorous assassins. Sometimes you are a man standing in the rain counting barrels of rice and pretending it matters as much as blood. It does, just not in the way songs will describe. Edo, 1603. Peace arrives, and it feels like unemployment. Tokugawa Ieyasu becomes shogun. The Edo period begins, and with it a slow tightening of society into neat categories like drawers in a chest. Peace is sold as a blessing. It is. It is also a threat. Because a shinobi in peace is like a wolf in a city, either caged, domesticated, or killed. Your work shifts. More paperwork, more watching, less fire, less running. You become officially something safer, a guard, a retainer, a man with a stipend. Rice still arrives. Rice still gets recorded. You sit with other men in a low room where someone has placed an abacus like a holy object. Beads click, beads slide. Lives are reduced to columns. A young clerk, fresh, smug, clean, asks for your name for the record. You pause. Your true name is for childhood and graves. You give him the name you use now. He writes it down, licking his brush like he's tasting authority. You think, so this is what it feels like to be filed. The irony is sharp enough to cut. You trained to vanish. Now the state wants you on paper.
Edo, 1620. The myth is born on a stage. One night, you stand at the back of a theater. Kabuki is loud, bright, shameless. Music like laughter. Actors moving like exaggerated ghosts. And there, on stage, is a ninja. He is dressed in black from head to toe. He moves dramatically, brandishing a blade in the moonlight. The crowd gasps. You almost choke, because you know what black clothing really means in a theater. Stagehand, invisible worker, someone the audience agrees not to see so the illusion can live. The actor is borrowing the invisibility of labor to create the invisibility of myth. It's brilliant. It's insulting. A man beside you whispers, thrilled, "Ninja are demons. They can fly." You stare at him. He's an adult. He believes this. You want to tell him about mud, about ledgers, about rice, about hiding in a ditch while your home burns and your father's hands shake over a list of names. Instead, you say flatly, "Yes, we fly." He smiles like a child. You turn away, and black humor bubbles up like bile. Congratulations, you think. You survived war, only to be murdered by entertainment. That is how classes die now, not by swords, but by stories that become more profitable than truth. Iga ruins, 1632. You return to ash and find a detail that won't die. You are older, your knees complain, your fingers ache when the air is wet. You return to Iga not as a proud son, but as a man with a quiet need to touch the place that made him. The valley is greener again. Nature forgives faster than people. Some houses have been rebuilt, some families are gone, some names exist only in old mouths. You walk where your childhood feet once ran until they bled. You kneel in the dirt beside what used to be your house. There is no grand monument, no heroic statue, just ground. You dig a little, absurdly, like a man searching for a childhood toy. Your fingers hit something hard, a shard of pottery, blackened. You hold it in your palm. It is small, useless, and it hits you harder than any blade ever did. Because this is the secret no winner can fully erase. Memory lives in the details, not in proclamations, not in banners, in a broken pot behind a hearth, in a ledger hidden under ash, in the smell of smoke that never really leaves your skin. You sit there for a long time. No one sees you. You don't need to be seen. Edo, 1645. Your last lesson arrives like a whisper. Your father is long dead, your mother too. Most of the men you trained with are either gone or softened into bureaucracy. You are still alive, which sometimes feels like a mistake the universe forgot to correct. A boy comes to you, thin, sharp-eyed, hungry in the way you recognize immediately. He wants to learn. He thinks shinobi are heroes. You laugh once, short and bitter. He flinches. "Teach me," he says. You look at his hands. They are clean, not yet broken by reality. You hand him a brush. He blinks. "A brush?" "Yes," you say. "Right." He stares. I know what you thought," you cut in. Short, sharp. Everyone thinks they want a sword. They want a mask. They want a story where they matter. You lean closer. What you need is to remember, to observe, to count. He looks disappointed. Good. Disappointment is the first step toward truth. You slide your old ledger toward him. The paper is worn, ink faded, names like ghosts. "This," you say, tapping it, "is more dangerous than any blade you will ever carry." He touches it like it might bite. You add softer. "History will not mention you. It might mention your lord. It might mention your enemy. It will not mention the man who listened near the kitchen pot and saved a convoy with a whispered warning." You watch his face. He doesn't like that. None of you ever do. Then you say the line that has followed you since birth. "History is written by winners." You pause. Your fingers, old and steady now, rest on the ledger. But memory, you finish, lives in details. Outside, a kettle hums. Inside, the boy breathes, and the world keeps turning, indifferent and exact. Epilogue, present day. You become a costume and also a truth. Now, because you are reading this, because the story is being told, you exist again, not as flesh, as a reconstruction. A museum in Iga sells ninja stars made of shiny metal that would get a real shinobi laughed out of a ditch. Children wear black outfits and pose for pictures beside fake castles. Tour guides speak of secret techniques as if secrets are a product you can buy with a ticket and a smile. Somewhere, a teenager watches an anime where a ninja runs across rooftops under a moon that never rains. Somewhere else, a video game gives you magical invisibility with a button. Click.
Cloak engaged. It's convenient. It's fun. It's also the final betrayal, because it turns your life into a special effect.
And yet, in a quiet display case, behind glass, there is a ledger. Not yours exactly, maybe a cousin's, maybe a stranger's, maybe a later copy. But the handwriting is familiar, cramped, careful, urgent. Names, dates, rice counts, notes about gates, patrols, weather, and a single line that looks like nothing to a tourist. Kitchen, before sunrise, soup, a detail, a real one. You lean close, yes, you, modern you, with your clean hands and your bright screen, and for a second you can almost smell it. Steam, soy, smoke, fear. The past doesn't roar, it whispers. That's the final irony. The winners built castles and wrote chronicles. You carried scraps and wrote lists. Their stories became official, yours became rumor. And yet, when the last banner rots and the last statue cracks, what remains isn't the grand speech. It's the small, stubborn evidence of how people actually lived. A burned pot shard, a rice payment, a coded shopping list, a boy told to write instead of swing a sword. You don't get a triumphant ending. You get something harsher and more useful. You were never a demon, never a superhero, never a shadow in perfect black. You were a person, a worker in the dark economy of war, a specialist in being overlooked, a human being carrying the weight of someone else's ambitions for bags of rice and the hope that your family would see another spring. History will always belong to those who can afford ink. But memory belongs to anyone who still knows how to notice. And once you notice the tea bowl's warmth, the tatami's scent, the hush before dawn, the scratch of brush on paper, you realize the secret you were born into. The truth was never the mask. The truth was the detail. And it's still here, right under your fingertips.